Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Camille, and we are two Black women who are committed to seeing Black men live healthy lives. This is the We See You podcast, where we discuss topics that affect the health of Black men in our community. First off, we want to thank the Bobby L. Roberts Library of Arkansas History and Art, a Central Arkansas Library System, for letting us use their recording studio today. And another thing we want to say before we get started is I think we're gonna say every time, why us? So we are here. Why are we two women talking about men's health? Well, we work in public health, and we've spent the last 3 years working with men to become healthier. And so we thought this is an important topic to talk about right now. And we said men have told us hey, y'all should talk about this. This is a good topic. We want to hear more. And we want to hear from women because there's women in our lives who love us. So that's what we're doing. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first segment. And that is called Black Men, We Love You. And for this month, it's time to focus on our mental health. So we are recording to the end of July. We have played it at the beginning of July. That didn't work out. But July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And so with that said, first I want to say, hey, girl, I like your shirt.
You good, bro?
And so we've been wearing these shirts all month to promote Minority Mental Health Month, and just seeing, we don't even have to talk to people on the street. People have seen us hey, I like that shirt. I got to give me one of those. I don't know if you saw someone on our social media said, hey, I need one of those shirts.
I didn't see it. But shout out to our barbers because they have been wearing these in their shop and starting the conversation about mental health with their customers. And so we really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, so let's talk about Minority Mental Health Month and mental health. So why is it important to talk about mental health?
I think it's important for us to talk about because mental health impacts every aspect of our life. So it impacts how you interact with other people. So all your relationships, it impacts how you are on your job, if you're productive or not. It impacts how you parent your kids. It impacts everything, your sleep, your eating, all of that can be impacted by your mental health. And so when we're not focusing on mental health, we're not really living the best life we can live because it's a piece, it's the foundation. It runs through every other thing that we have to do.
And so when we talk about mental health, what actually is mental health? Because, I think conversation about mental health have improved the past few years, especially in our community. But I think there may still be some misconceptions on what actually consists of mental health.
So I always, when we think about mental health, and I think especially in our community, when we think about mental health, we go straight to the most severe end. So we talk about, people who are unable to take care of themselves or people who are, acting in a way that's going to look unnatural or weird to us. So we go straight to the severe end. But mental health really is a spectrum. And all it means is mental health is our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So emotional is our ability to cope. It's our ability to manage our emotions. Psychological is our ability to manage our thoughts. And social part is how we manage our relationships with others. So all of that falls under mental health, which means that's why it impacts everyone. And it impacts everything. It's not just the severe end of mental illness. It is all the things.
So with think about that, what are some signs of good mental health and some signs of poor mental health that we may see?
I think that, one of the things that when we talk about emotional wellness and how do we know that things are going well, and it's really our ability to cope with life. And so when things are happening and things, there's this shirt that I have of life be lifing. Life has been lifing a lot in the last 5 years for real. COVID into now, we just keep going through all this stuff. And it's your ability to cope and persevere through those things. And when we say what does it look like, it's your ability to remain productive. It's your ability not to crash out. It's your ability to, still maintain relationships, still, have a pretty positive outlook on life. That's your ability to do all of that. That's all related to your mental health. And when you're able to do that well, then those are some good mental health things. when we start to see mental health and we're like, oh, this is something that I might need to pay attention to, is when it's causing a problem. So if I'm eating too much or not eating enough, if I'm sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, if it's changing how I sleep, if I'm not as productive, if I'm, a lot of times your friends will be the first one because they'll see the change in you even before you feel it or see it. Your friends and family, they'll be able to say, if your relationships are kind of falling away. Sometimes it's even like not wanting to get up. It's not wanting to do the things that you normally would really love to do. And on the most severe end is, being, hearing voices or seeing things that are not there. It could also mean that, having thoughts about hurting yourself or hurting someone else. So that's, a more severe end, but even all the way in between there, we have levels of when we're not doing as well as we could.
And I heard you mention emotional wellness. And so that's just another way to talk about mental health. I guess that's a not so scary term to use, maybe.
I think, so I think that when we talk about mental health, we think of it as like sometimes what I do after something has gone wrong. So it's kind of like this thought process, like I go to the doctor when I'm sick. I look at my mental health once I see these things are going wrong. But when we're talking about wellness, and even when we think about physical wellness, we're talking about what do I do so I'm not sick? What do I do so I'm not unwell? And so I think that sometimes when we talk about emotional wellness, it's like focusing on those things that are, here so I could be doing this so I don't, fall into that emotional unwellness. So that's why I kind of use both of those terms.
That makes me think, I think I've heard before that, so one of the things that comes up, like when you think about emotional wellness, and that maybe it sounds like people may be like depressed. People think about depression. Mm-hmm. And depression, I've heard like depression shows up differently for people in our community than they do for other folks. What are some ways that it may show up in people? Because it's not always about being sad and things like that.
So, and a lot of times we immediately think depression is sadness. And sometimes it is withdrawing. And so a lot of times we'll see people who are depressed and they don't want to be around people. They don't want to do the things that they used to do. For Black people, a lot of times we hear about irritability. Like, so they're not necessarily feeling what they would call sadness. It's just everything and everybody is agitating them. All y'all on my nerves. And it's like everybody. It's like every little thing is just like I don't want to deal with it. And so they may be feeling more irritable, more angry than they would be in feeling like, oh, I'm sad. I just want to cry today. And so it gets overlooked sometimes. Sometimes in our community, when we're depressed, we may not do things or not be as productive. And so sometimes that gets labeled as laziness. Mm. So, you'll be, especially when we're talking about like younger people and we see them like laying around like, oh, they just lazy. They don't want to get up and do nothing. And sometimes you have to ask the question like, well, how are you feeling? Like what's going on? Because sometimes us just like laying there or doing nothing but watching TV, doing nothing but just scrolling on your phone, like never, like you would be okay not leaving the house. Mm-hmm. Those are some types of things that, kind of treat like, maybe that's not just, you just a lazy child, or you just a lazy man, you don't want to do nothing.
You're not just tired. There's something that's weighing on you.
Yeah, it's something else that's like keeping you way down, not just that, oh, I just don't want to do nothing.
Okay. So like we said here on the We See You podcast, we're focused specifically on Black men's wellness and health. What are some things that you've seen specifically like with Black men around mental health, emotional wellness?
I have to say the most powerful thing that I have seen is kind of that we have gone into communities and we're talking about Black men like they don't want to talk about this, like they don't want to address it. And I have found that we really don't make it easy for Black men to talk about their mental health. And that's the biggest eye-opening thing I think that I've seen. I've spent most of my career, even when I'm talking about mental health, trying to raise awareness. And not at the same time raising awareness is raising these safe spaces for people to talk. And that's what I've noticed with Black men is that if you give them a safe space, if they feel like you care about me and this is not going to be used against me, you ain't going to throw this back in my face. all of those things, they will talk and they open up to you and they'll tell you what's going on and they'll talk to you so they can process it. And they want to have these conversations. They just don't want to have these conversations and then it be thrown back up in their face.
Right. They feel judged or something like that.
Right. And so when we ask them, like, what's the things that's stressing you out? They start, women, job, kids. And so you be like, okay. And, as a woman, be like, these women ain't, I don't know who you fooling with, but we ain't stressing you out like that. But when they talk about, like, why is it stressful? Like, I've heard them say, like, I can't come in and, like, always say, like, what's going wrong because I'm in a relationship with this woman and she's expecting from me that I am her safe place. I'm her provider. I'm the one doing these things. So I have to always come in and be this strong person. And I don't have a place where I can just say, this is heavy. This is hard. Like, oh my goodness. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, it makes me think about the men I'm in a relationship with. Like, do I give them that space? And like, I don't know. Sometimes I might just expect you to be always on. Like, I don't know if I give you the space. And I think that's why these shirts are powerful because it's kind of like permission to say, actually, I'm not good. Yeah. And, we're here. Like, if I'm wearing this shirt, I'm open to letting you talk about it and I'm open to being there. The other thing that I noticed is that men start off with the stress being about women. They start off about the stress being about kids and job. But we always end on grief. They always talk about what they've lost. And the men that we are talking to have lost loved ones, especially when you're in kind of like the 30 to 40 range. Right. Your parents might be going, grandparents, or you're losing these people who were central figures in your childhood and your childhood into early adulthood. But then there's a lot of them losing friends. Yeah. Neighbors, spouses. Like it's just a lot of loss, and they're having to deal with that. And again, not having a place where they can say, "I miss my grandma. I miss my boy. Like I miss them." They don't feel comfortable being able to say that because somebody will be like, "Oh, get over there. Like, we got to keep going." They want you to keep man up. They want you to keep going. And they don't have time to just sit there and feel and say, this hurts. And so like we start off on stress, but we always at some point end up on grief. And sometimes not people, it's lost opportunities and dreams that they, places they thought they would be at by now, but life be lifing and they haven't made it. And so they're having to grieve. They're lost. That I didn't get what it is I thought I was going to get. Yeah. Like maybe they were like a star basketball player and they tore their ACL in both knees or legs. I don't know what ACL is, but and so that dream that they had, and maybe they go to the pros, but if play, D2, D1 in school and weren't able to do that, and they're lost, and that maybe like their whole identity in their youth, and people look up to them, and that's what they're known as, and not living up to that. Yeah, I mean, but it could even be like, I just had this dream that I'm gonna be able, to have a house and 2 kids and a car and a spouse and all these things. And then, like, if you look at the housing market, you get priced out pretty quickly. And so, you working all this, you're working, and you're not getting the house. And you break up, you have a divorce. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have this relationship and you're having to co-parent. It's just a lot of ways that sometimes life doesn't work out the way that we dreamed it when we were 20, 25. Sometimes it doesn't work out how we dreamed it when we were 30. Like, it's always changing. And you always have to kind of grieve that and regroup. Mm-hmm. So for people, it's like, so we say this podcast is for Black men, but also for the women that love you. What are some ways that women who support and want to be that space for the men in their lives, like what can they do to, I don't know, this may not even be the question for you, maybe ask the men this. Y'all tell us, what can women do? What can women do? But I will say what I've heard from men is the biggest thing. So, we go out into barbershops and talk to them and they feel comfortable talking to us about what's going on in their life. But part of it is because we don't get an opportunity to throw it back in their face. And so they talk about, and I've said it a couple times because they talk about that. And, I think about how, like, when you're in a relationship with someone and somebody says something and you might be like, oh, okay. And then later on you get angry and you go back and you pull that thing up and you'll be like, well, when you was laying in there crying, or when you was talking about this, I was this. I was here for you. I was holding you down. I was doing this. Or, they'll be going through a time where maybe they're depressed and they're not working or not working as hard. You're like, you ain't even it. You not this, you not that. And so we throwing these things in their face. And so then they don't talk to us. Mm-hmm. And they've said that I can't talk to her, again, because she's expecting me to be, what society has taught us that the man should be. And also because sometimes we weaponize their feelings against them. And so I feel like that's something I become more mindful of. I don't think I was doing that before, but I'm more mindful of now, like even with my friends and family, like not, if they trust me with what they're feeling, that I don't turn around and try to take that and beat them over the head with it because I'm angry. And so that means that I have to be emotionally regulated. That means, because, really when we're angry, what I want to do is I want to hurt you. So I'm going to take this thing that I know you're upset about and I'm going to use it to hurt you. So now being mindful about, I got to regulate my emotions so that I'm not just trying to hurt you so that you feel safe talking to me.
Mm. And that makes me think, now I'm like doing some self-reflection. Like I feel like I may say some things, but not in a way to like hurt the person, but like joking. And sometimes I feel like, and not just like women with men, but men with men, especially like in the barbershop, are joking around with each other and may do stuff like that. And that may be like me to think about that some more before making it, because it's not funny. There's something serious that they, that someone's dealing with and they opened up to you and you're making a joke about it. That could be hard to deal with.
Yeah, and I think that we as Black people, humor is one of our coping mechanisms. Like if you are ever on social media after something huge has happened, like something devastating has happened,
go make a joke.
Somebody on there is going to make a joke. Yeah. And it's just one of our coping mechanisms. Like we laugh, people say like laugh to keep from crying. And I think that we do that. And so sometimes we have to just recognize not everybody is ready to laugh with us.
I mean, you tell me that all the time. You be like, I forget that you, this is the way you deal with you.
You are a humor person with coping, and I am like, I got to get there. I'm not, right after something has happened, I ain't ready to be like, oh, ha, 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 and you will go there straight. And I'm like, oh, wait. And then I have to remember, because then I'm like, what? How are you laughing at this? Like, oh, she's not happy about it. She just coping with it. Yeah. And so, but I know that if people don't know that, it seems like you're trivializing what they're going through.
Yeah. You gotta be mindful of that. Wow. Anything else do you want to share about like mental health and what we could do to support people?
I really think that we should, I say this all the time, it's like we have to start talking about mental health like we talk about everything else. And I know that there's been a recent, like we weaponize mental health a little bit. And so we say we triggered, everybody's a narcissist, everybody's toxic. And I think that happens when we raise awareness. When we raise awareness and we don't give a full foundation of what it is, people just run with terms. I get that. But I think we still keep talking. Okay. And so I think that, we should be talking. And I've noticed like a lot more Black men now. I've been watching podcasts, The Pivot. That's one of the podcasts that I watch quite often. And they all talk about going to therapy and dealing with loss and stuff. And so they'll say my therapist. And I was like, I look forward to when we get to a place where it's going to be like, oh, my therapist said this, and nobody bats an eye. Mm-hmm. Nobody's like, oh, you got a therapist? It's just like, oh, okay, cool. And we should be having these conversations openly about, oh, you know what? I wasn't good yesterday. I was feeling down. Like I couldn't even get myself together. And realizing that I don't always have to have an answer for that. So if you're sharing something with me, I don't have to have advice for you about what to do. And I think that's where we go from, somebody said, oh man, I was struggling yesterday. Well, you need to be doing this, 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 and this. Sometimes you just need somebody to listen. You were struggling. Tell me about what was going on. Oh, okay. That's it. Like you just need to be that's hard. You just need to be a listening ear. Like you don't have to fix it. And so I just think we need to have a conversation, remembering that conversation is sometimes talking, sometimes listening. Mm-hmm. And keep talking about mental health. Keep talking about why it's important for us to address it. Keep talking about what we do. Keep talking about going and getting help, like having somebody walk through issues with you. Like there's benefit to having somebody who's trained walk you through the struggles of life. And we need to keep having these conversations so that it becomes normalized and everybody is able to just look and say, hey, it's okay that you're not okay, but here's how you get better.
And that makes me think, like, I have a shirt that says, yes, I have a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny. I feel like most of the time when I wear it, it's the time I did have a therapist. But, I know therapists are some people that you can go talk to. Who are some other people that you can talk to help you walk through these things? And I know, like, for like going to therapy, you don't only have to go when things are bad. You
should go when things are okay. Because, like, it's the same way when we talk about primary care. Prevention is important. Mm-hmm. And I don't want people to wait until they are a bit depressed for a year. They've been, they're about to lose their job. They done lost their kids. All these things, we wait to talk about it. Let's talk about it up here. Like, does that mean you got to go every week if everything is okay? Mm-mm. But at least have somebody that you can talk to so that when things start getting rough, you know kind of where to go. So you don't have to... Going to a therapist does not mean that your childhood was horrible and you got to process your childhood. It doesn't mean that you've been through all these traumatic events. It could mean that you should go if you had those things, but it doesn't mean that all the time. Sometimes it's just a checkup. Hey, I just want to make sure, I want to talk to you about what's going on, make sure that I'm using all the tools available to me so that I can thrive and be the best that I can be.
So if you're going in for like a checkup, how often should you go in for a checkup if things are like, okay, just make sure you use all the tools? And also, how do you find these people to talk to?
And that's really hard because, like, we don't have a whole lot of therapists like here in our state. There are some, new digital health things that are out there like Calm, Headspace, BetterHelp that have you can connect to, licensed therapists over your phone and over text. I'm not saying that I recommend or anything. This is not a recommendation, just saying that that's available. People who are employed and have insurance, I say you go through your insurance to find out who they cover. Mm-hmm. So you can actually call them or go to the website and they have a list of behavioral health. That's what they typically call it, behavioral health or mental health. And you can look through there and see the licensed clinical social workers, because that's sometimes what it'd be licensed professional counselors. It could be psychologists, psychiatrists, or MDs. They typically prescribe meds. They may not do as much of the talking. But the other ones don't prescribe meds. So your licensed clinical social worker, your licensed professional counselor, your family and marriage counselors, those individuals are licensed, but they're usually licensed to do more of talking versus meds. So you can get a whole list of those people and go to that. If you're employed, you usually have what they call employee assistants. You could go there and they will at least give you 6, usually it's about 6 sessions. EAP. They'll give you about 6 sessions. And then oftentimes they know how to refer you out to people in the community. If you're in the state of Arkansas, there's AR Connect. And so you can go to AR Connect, I think it's .com, and they will go through and they'll give, answer some questions, and then they can help you connect to services here in Arkansas. If you have a National Alliance for Mental Illness office in your state, and every state has one, you can go, it's called NAMI, you can go to NAMI.org, and you can just find where your state is and call your state office. They usually have lists of providers and where they can refer you to people. So, those are good places to go. Therapy for Black girls, they keep a list. Psychology Today, they have a list. So these are places where you can go to find people.
And you can find people you can stratify by gender, mm-hmm. by race, if their religions. Mm-hmm. You can do about all those things.
You can do all those things. Yeah. But the reason why, another reason why it's good for you not to wait until something is wrong is because it's going to take some time to get in. It very rarely, unless it's a crisis, are you going to be able to make an appointment and get in same week, mm-hmm. and maybe not even same month. Sometimes you maybe take 90 days. Mm-hmm. So that's why you don't want to wait until things feel like they're falling apart, because then it's, by the time you get in, things will be really bad. So you want to, again, when you start noticing some changes, let me just check in with somebody to see if things are going okay.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that came to mind is specifically with EAP. I know that if you are a parent or your family can go to some sessions with you, mm-hmm. with EAP. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to know. You know, if your kids are struggling or something like that, you need to get started. That's a good place to start. Another thing, though, is like with finding someone to talk to, it takes time. Sometimes the first person you go to is not the one.
It's not the one. And it's okay. You can fire your therapist. You can start over. Oftentimes I tell people, like, when I go to a new stylist for my hair, nails, or whatever, I usually take a picture and I say, this is what I want. And if I don't get that at the end of the service, then I know
they're not for you.
They're not for me. Right? And I don't start off with my most elaborate things. I start off with, you know, something pretty simple. And I know that. And so when you're going to therapy, take a picture of what you want to have happen. And be sure that's because that with the difference with therapy and your hair is that at the end of your first session, you should not be at your big picture goal of what you want. It's going to take some time. But at the end of the first session, if you don't feel like y'all connected, if you don't feel like, you know, they got you, they understood what you were saying. If you don't feel like they had, you have to end of 3 sessions when they do the evaluation or whatever. If you don't feel like they had a plan or anything like that, then you speak up and you say, hey, do you have a plan? What are you doing? I feel like we're not connecting. What can we do differently? And if they're not responding to that, then it's okay when you say, you know, I just don't think you're the one for me. It doesn't mean that they're a bad therapist. It doesn't mean all therapy is bad. It just means that y'all weren't a good fit. And that happens because it just is what it is.
Right. And there's different types of therapies that people do. And so there may be one type of therapy that's better for you than another type. And that person may specialize in that area. And that just may not be something you down with or ready for.
And it may not be something that fits the problem you have right now. Because years ago, I would have told you I like a certain type of therapy. I like you tell me the plan. I like for us to have a number of sessions. I like for us to be working toward goals. Boom. For some situations, I like more of a just let me come in and talk. Just let me listen. I don't need a goal. I don't need none of that. I just need to talk.
I think before we move on to the next segment, I wish I would have said this earlier. So I want to point out, like, why is it? Why are you someone who's good to talk about this subject? Just in case somebody didn't catch the first episode.
Then you should go back and watch it. No, but my degree is in clinical psychology. So, for the last,
you ain't got to say how.
Wow, for a minute. What I've been doing is working in the field of mental health and how we improve access to services and how do we get people connected. And so, that's my degree, that's my training, but it's also kind of what it is that I do now. My work centers around how do we improve mental health.
Awesome. All right, so let's move on to our next segment, which is our call to action. Like, we don't want people to leave listening to our discussion and not know what to do, like not have something to do. I feel like we've already kind of gone into it, but it was like, so after listening to this, when I turned this podcast episode off, what is my step to do? What is my goal for the next month until a person hears from us again?
I think it is to do something that's going to benefit your mental health. And remembering that mental health is your emotional well-being, your psychological well-being, your social well-being. And so that, connect with some people that, are important to you. Go back with your friends and not just send them a text and be like, you good, but, actually, like, let's meet up for lunch. Let's talk on the phone. Let's get back, let's connect. Let's go, do something. Do something that's going to get you physically active. Go, right now it's hot, but,
yeah.
But play some basketball. Go do something. Do something that's going to go to the gym. Do some things that are going to be good for your mental health. Get some rest. The grind has to include rest. And sometimes we forget that. We just be like grinding, and we don't get enough sleep. So get some sleep, and if you have been listening, you've been like, she was talking about depression and I kind of see that in me, or I see that in somebody I know. If you see it in you, then let's start thinking about going and talking to somebody about that, a professional about, your mental health and checking in with that. And a lot of times, especially with men, we hear like, oh, that's not for me. them people are already crazy. How they gonna help me? And it's like, we don't say that about no other providers. Like, we do not say that we're not going to the dentist because they once had a cavity. And we don't say we're not going to the optometrist and the eye doctor because they wear glasses. Like, we don't say that. And it's because we know that them having that issue doesn't stop them from being able to help us now. And so and a lot of times, like, I think it's that pride because we don't want to admit that something is wrong and we need some help.
Yeah.
And so don't let that pride be the reason that you're not thriving, because we need you to be thriving in these communities. And so go out there and get that help so you can thrive and be the best man that you can be.
Yeah. It's good to talk to somebody else and not just talk to yourself. Some people might think that may be a condition. No, but no, you may know yourself well, but it's good for others to,
because other people see stuff that you're not gonna see. When I talk to my non-professional friends and I say something, they will see something that I don't see because we all have different perspectives. And sometimes when you're in the midst of a cave, like, you don't see the way out. But if somebody's on the top, they can see how, like, you can get out. And that's why it's important to have that professional, because they have that training, they have the expertise, they have the experience to be able to, like, I've seen people where you are. I'm over here right now. I see how we can get you from there to here.
No, like when you said it has been, like, I'm visualizing like somebody like in a tunnel and having you get up, but they can't see the next step. But somebody's above and it's like, okay, you want to put your foot over there to the right, try that. But you still got to pull yourself up. They just helping you, guide you along the way.
And that's what that's what mental health treatment is. They are not healing you. They are guiding you. They're giving you the steps. You still have to do the work.
Yeah.
You're not going to get better just going and talking and not actually using the tools. So you still got to do the work. But they are the ones that say, there's a step right here that you've been missing. Let's talk about why you keep missing that step.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get you on that step so that we can get you up and out of where you are.
Okay. And so we said to do something for your mental health this month.
Do something for your mental health this month.
What you going to do?
For my mental health this month?
I know I put you on the spot.
You did. Because the month almost over. So
for next month, then.
Okay, for next month, what am I going to do for my mental health?
In the next 30 days.
In the next 30 days, what am I going to do for my mental health? I think I'm going to go to a play.
Okay.
I enjoy arts, and so I think I'm going to go to a play.
Okay. I am going to try to rest. I've been on the move a lot.
Ooh.
I feel like this year it's been a lot of things going on. I am going to make a conscious effort to rest. Now, what does the rest look like for me? I gotta figure that out. But that's gonna be my goal for the next 30 days. Okay, so we don't want to sleep that. So we talked about what the men can do, and, like, I guess what anybody who's listening can do.
Anybody who's listening.
Right. But okay, so what else we want to say is check on the people in your life, especially the men.
Yes.